The reason I am passionate about money is because of the many mistakes. This is just the intro to that question.
Yeah.
Many mistakes I have made. I've made very, very many mistakes and huge blunders through my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of the Playhouse. Super excited about our guest today. Parker, I have even vowed the threads for her. I'm going to come correct. We've changed our venue. We're at the Amazing Hemingways because of our guest. Let me tell you guys, it is an honor. If you guys are not prepared, you best get prepared. This person, when it comes to the conversation about money, I'd say probably one of the most influential conversations we're going to have on this CTA platform. And I say that without mincing my words, knowing who has been on this platform. She has been in this industry of, I don't even know what to call it. I'll just call it money for now. She'll break it down a little bit more. For 20 years plus, dabbling in all sorts of things, acquisitions and mergers, investments. She has things that terms and terminologies that I can't even pronounce and say here, but I promise you the conversation is going to be worth your time. Take your pen out, take your pad out, take your iPad out, take your phone out, get your mind ready, because I promise you this is going to be one of the most valuable conversations that we have had on this platform. I am so honored. I am so happy. I am so excited, as you can tell. Yani, it's going to be a good one. She is a director at Faida Investment Limited Group
Bank.
Faida Investment Bank. Did she get your things right? She is a director at Faida Investment Bank. She's a good friend of mine. I've known her for a couple of years. Let me say this. She played a huge role in our business, opening up doors for us, giving us advice. She even was a board member, an advisor for us at 4Up Digital when we first started. She is also an author. She's also an author. She has written a book. The book is called Money Wise. So you best be sure you're going to get it. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it is accessible. We're going to be talking a whole lot about that. She is also the founder of RH Group. We're going to be talking a whole lot about that. She's a host. She's got her own YouTube channel, Money Wise with Rina Hicks. So take a few minutes. You can even pause the video right now and go and subscribe, because Yani, the kind of conversations and the kind of guests that she has been able to have, you're not even ready for that. She is a trainer. When it comes to money consulting, she is somebody who sits down with you and advises you from different aspects. I am blabbing, guys, in this intro. But beyond just her career side, I need to say that she is a wife to one and a mother of three. People are more than just their career. Overall, she's just an amazing, good human being and a friend that I am privileged and honored to have. Not just myself, she's worked also with Wamai and she's worked with Aizo. So this one, they're going to help me when it comes to introducing her. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for none other than Rina Hicks. Hey, Rina.
Hey, Richie.
You have sent me to the tailors to get myself threaded up.
You are looking so amazing. I saw it. I was like, I'm going back home.
Hey, you are looking super amazing as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for gracing us again with your presence. What people may not know here, in 22 April, we actually sat down to start your CTA.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the right timing, and God's timing is today. So I'm super excited. One of the things that I have told you also, Rina, and I want to say it on camera, is that I think you have anointing for money. There's something about you that has a different understanding, and I don't know what the word that I can use is just anointing. So there's a way that you look at money, and there's an opening that when I've personally experienced with you that you've had. So it's why I just wanted to honor you and dressed up in the way that I have.
Thank you. I'm like, Richie. Thank you.
How you doing?
I am well. I am nervous for some reason, but I'm excited as well. I am happy to be here. Scared about the conversations that we're going to have, but really, really happy to be here.
I was watching a couple of your videos and I was just like, you know, you never really know people until you take time out to get to know people.
Yeah.
People may think they know you, but I think today they're going to get to know you. Enough talk for me. Over to you, Rina. Let's kick this off. And on CT, I like taking this thing chronologically because I believe the dots connect. Sylvia Mulinge says you never know, people see the glory, but they don't know the story. And I think she jacked that from Steve Jobs. Oh, I need to say this.
Please do.
Just to show people, let me tell you something that I probably have never told you. I mentioned her just randomly. So a lot of people don't know, but behind the scenes, I used to do Sylvia Mulinge's digital. There's a time when it was International Women's Day. And I wanted Sylvia to have an interview with somebody. Yeah. Sylvia this time was the CCO of Safaricom, Chief Customer Officer. Yes, Chief Customer Officer. She was number 2 after Bob Collymore. And at that time, Bob Collymore was sick, and therefore Sylvia was literally running Safaricom. And she asked me, Richie, who do you think I should sit down and have a conversation with? I went through the internet looking, and I've worked with a lot of influencers, so I know a lot of people. Okay. To be honest, you are the only person I could think of at the time who could sit down with her. And when I told her, what do you think of sitting down with Rina? She was like, yep, done. Let's do that. I agree. So I say that to say that I do understand the honor and privilege it is to sit with you. Because for her, this is a peer, somebody who I can engage with, and somebody who would understand and ask me the right questions.
Wow. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah.
When I've looked at the kind of guests you've had, I'm really just honored to be here.
It's going to be an exciting one.
Thank you.
Okay, enough of that. It's just that sort of hits me. Okay, let's get into this. So we're going to take it slowly. Okay. And we're literally going to start from the day that you were born. Over to you, Rina.
Wow. So I was born in Nairobi, and I was an only child. I think my mom was 20 when I was born.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. Young parents. By the time my mom was 23, she had 3 kids. So soon after I was born, 2 years after, my brother and sister showed up. They're twins. And that's grew up in Nairobi, spent a lot of time with my grandparents, my mom's parents, who lived in the Ridgeways area. Also spent quite a bit of time with my grandmother who lives in Muranga. So most of my holidays I was in Shags. And then...
okay, let me take you at the CTA pace. Okay. So, can I ask when you're born?
Yes. Of course, easy. So I was born in February, 17th of February, 1978. 1978.
Yeah, 1978. Yes. Okay, so at this time, where were you born? Where you living?
So my parents lived in Jamuhuri. If I remember their stories correct, I think it was Jamuhuri. I was born in Nairobi Hospital, and moved to Jamuhuri, of course, with my parents. And then after a little while, we moved to Parklands. There was an apartment somewhere in Parklands we lived until I think I was 4. Yes.
Okay, so now your sisters, your sister and brother, the twins, at this time are not yet born.
So they were born when I was 2 years old.
Oh, okay. So there's just a 2-year difference.
There's just a 2-year difference. Okay. And they were born while we lived in Parklands. Yes. And then I just struggled, by the way, apparently, because I was center of attraction. My dad is the third born in his family, but first son. I had, I think, 1 or 2 cousins that were born by that time. My dad has many brothers and sisters, very many. It's a big family. So I was center of attraction. And then these 2 come.
Take the limelight.
And I disappeared.
Ooh.
Right, like completely. Because, of course, they're twins. And twins, I mean, anybody who has multiples in their home understand. But I love them to bits. They're my good friends today.
You've said something that I think of it differently now. I can imagine they came when you're how old? 2. So you're still a baby.
Yes.
So now that's attention, of course. These are newborns.
Yeah. So suddenly I grew up. Apparently I could talk before I could walk. So guests would come, and my first language was Kikuyu, so I didn't know any other language. And so guests would come, and I'm seated there, my thumb in my mouth, and I'd take it out and say, oh, Uncle Mwangi's here, can you bring him some tea to the nanny? Yes, I could not walk. I learned how to walk late, by the way. I have no idea why. I learned how to walk when I was 17 months. By the way, 17 is my number. I don't know how come. I was born on the 17th. I walked when I was 17 months. My parents were married on the 17th.
Yo.
I got married on the 17th. Our broker number, trading number on the trading floor on the stock exchange is 17. Like, it's so crazy. And it just so happens that that's my dad's number too. I don't know why, but a lot of things happened for me on the 17th. Anyway, that's an aside.
Yesterday was the 17th.
Just an aside.
Just saying.
Yeah, and yesterday was my wedding anniversary.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, we're 15 years.
Whoa.
So where was I? Yeah, so...
You were just at 17.
We're just at 17. No, yeah, so I...
So they come in, the two
came in,
yeah.
and I was just so... I just felt like I disappeared. So actually, that's something that I have realized affected the way that I relate with people, the way that I function, the way that... Because I'm just used to doing me, right? Because everyone else is, take care of me, take care of who I am, take care of whatever I need to do. But anyway, but my childhood was fun, even as I say that.
Okay.
I had fun with my siblings. We played a lot, we fought a lot, we had fun together. We've generally grown as a fairly close-knit family through the years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're at Parklands now. When do you start going to school and where do you start going to school?
Yeah, so I can't actually remember when we moved, because we moved from Parklands to Kileleshwa.
Okay.
And I can't remember, but when I was in primary school, I remember being in Kileleshwa. Actually from like pre-primary. So I was probably 5 when I went to pre-primary. I started school a little early. So we moved to Kileleshwa. I went to St. George's Primary School. And
that's on Dennis Street. No,
yes, on Dennis Street. But before St. George's, I went to some other kindergarten, somewhere in Grevelia Grove, then moved to St. George's for pre-primary, from pre-primary all the way to class 8.
Okay.
Yes, all the way to class 8.
Then let's have a conversation about primary. Primary, I believe. Yeah, the reason why I like spending some time on childhood is because I realize it plays a part later on. So let's talk about, and as home and school both play a part.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about your primary days.
Yeah.
From the schooling perspective.
So my primary days were good. I think some of the things that pop into my head when I think about primary was, just a lot of play. But then as I went into like class 2, I struggled a little bit. I think it's because I was not significantly, like a year younger than most of the others. So I was scared. I was not as, out there as my peers. So I found my primary years, especially the initial years, were me trying to keep up with everything and everyone and everything that they're doing. And it was a big school. And I remember, having a teacher who was called Mrs. Pandya in Standard 2. And I'm trying to read, and then I misread a word, slap on my face.
For real?
Yeah, like primary was just, it was fun, but it was also a very difficult place. Because the kind of way we were disciplined those days instilled a lot of fear. So I remember learning under a lot of fear. And then, as I became older, it got easier.
Yeah. And did that fear then push you to do well or to fail, or it was just...
No, I think it pushed me to do well.
Yeah.
It pushed me, I was so afraid I didn't want...
To be chapwan.
Right?
Beaten.
So, and we used to be beaten on the hand, but this particular teacher I think she had so much anger, as in, I just hear my ear ringing. After being given a hot slap on the cheek because I did not pronounce some word well.
Yo.
But that was class 2. But anyway, and then carried on. I can't quite remember my class 3 to 6 to 5. 5, I remember boys were yucky. If a boy touched you, you first wipe. If they start somewhere, you wipe. It's like, we played a game called Fleas. I don't know if you ever... No? Like fleas. Boys had fleas, yeah. Boys had fleas, you don't touch boys. And then suddenly a year later, boys are, they're actually not too bad. So I remember that transition. Class 6, class 7, something went off. Because now it was, yes, boys are interesting, but the boys now became overly, like...
Interesting.
Yeah. And in all the girls, and they used to play really bad games in our school. And so sometimes, if you're not chonjo and you don't leave the classroom in good time during break time, kwisha wewe.
Whoa.
I'm telling you, there was a lot of bad things that used to happen. So I remember girls would be cornered and they are just fingering her.
What?
Can you imagine? And you know, that stuff was not reported. I don't know whether the teachers knew or they didn't know, but it was a disaster. So the behavior, and I'm thinking, that's my daughter's age, like when this stuff used to happen. So the bell has rung. You grab your stuff and you run out. Whether you're going to the canteen or you've carried your brick in your lunchbox, you run out of class because, hey, if you're found alone in that class, you're finished. So that's what I remember about my primary school.
You know, I mean, you've said that.
It's scary.
And on CTA, sometimes you're allowed to just jump and find out a different thing. So how does that, you said clearly it's your daughter's age right now.
Yeah.
Your firstborn daughter is what, 13?
She's 13.
So you've got 2 daughters and one son. What, in ages?
So my daughter's 13. I have an 8-year-old daughter, 7-year-old son.
And I know you're an intentional parent. Part of the reason why even we've been shooting it, like, I can't shoot at this time because of this, that, the other. We'll talk about this whole work-life balance and whether it can be done and all a bit later on.
Okay.
But how does that, what happened to you, determine the kind of schools that now your children go to?
I think the world has changed since those days. I think there's a lot more, there's lack of tolerance for that kind of behavior anymore, which I thank God for. So, but even then, I think I've wanted my children to enjoy the process of learning. I didn't enjoy the process of learning because learning should be fun.
Yes.
Because education is not about learning something, cramming and passing an exam. Education is about enjoying the process of learning and getting a lot of joy from the process of learning and wanting to learn and discover things and go further in that. And that's what I've wanted for my children. Yeah. It's not even just about the system. It's not about, you know, the kind of school they go for. It's just, I want my children to be in a space where they're allowed to be creative, in a space where they're allowed to think and express themselves and enjoy the process of learning. And
learn things that are life skills. You know, Rina, I'm going to milk the value that is between your prime real estate, between your 2 ears. There's so much gold you have in that mind of yours. My job is to milk as much of it. The reason why I say that is because as we enter this, your children learning, and then we're going to go back, is you teach them about money.
I do, yeah.
These conversations that you were learning, just as a quick tip nugget, what would be some of the ways that a parent maybe watching this can teach their children about money? What do you do?
So first of all, you know, people see me talk about money and they think, hey, she knows. Do you know, the reason I am passionate about money is because of the many mistakes. This is just the intro to that question. Yeah. Many mistakes I have made. I've made very, very many mistakes and huge blunders through my life. But I can tell you I've learned a lot from my husband. A lot in the management of finances. So one of the things that he came up with, he did with the children. I'll just give you one example. There's many ways we can teach our children, but we have to be very intentional. You have to be intentional. You can't just, oh, I'm going shopping, you know what you want to buy, it's all in your head and you go buy and come back home. So the question is then, how do you help children understand what it is that you're doing? So one of the ways was we decided we're going to do birthdays as a way to teach them. So I remember when this started, my daughter was probably 7. And when she turned 7, and I guess when you have one child, your firstborn child, you're just excited, oh my gosh, I have a 7-year-old, and you have all these, you know, nice things that you bring, a huge party and whatever. We spent a lot of money. We had these, she liked doing experiments. We had these guys who do all these kinds of experiments, come, and the children had lab coats and glasses and what, it was so posh. You were there.
It was nice. I remember it.
My husband sat me down and said, now, is this sustainable? What are we teaching? And eventually I understood what he was saying. So we agreed. What we agreed was that we're going to have a budget for birthdays for everybody, right? We can't spend 50K on this one, 100K on the other one, 5K on, I mean, like, we need a sustainable way to celebrate. Yes, celebrating is fine, but we can't be spending this kind of money on birthdays. And I was like, okay, fair enough. What do we need to do? So we agreed on a budget specific for birthdays. And the budget was 15K and still is. So the 15K, the children have to decide what they want.
Wow.
From the age of, my son was what, 4? It was, you have 15,000. What do you want to do? You want to do that? Okay, that costs 7,000. So you have 8,000 left. So then what do you want to do? And it's been very interesting watching that, Richie. Initially, I was like, what are we doing to our kids? Wait, this is too much. Like, it's too much.
Yeah.
Like, they can't handle this. But listen to me. 2020, yeah, that was when we had lockdown. 2020, my daughter, that's 3 years ago, she was 10. I think she was probably 10 and a half or so then. And so she decided she's going to save her birthday money and convinced her sister and brother to also save some money. So they decided now, let's start to save. When she turned 11, she decided she was not going to use her birthday money. Are we together? Then she told me, Mom, you guys, we can't be having this kind of TV that has this thing at the back. It's embarrassing when I bring my friends home. Like, what are we doing? So her father told her, since you buy yourself a TV, us guys don't mind, you can buy. But she's like, I don't have the money. He said, you don't? How much do you have? How much have you saved? And I can't remember how much I saved then. Anyway, the 3 children got together, put their money together, ended up putting together 42,000 shillings. My husband took them to Carrefour and they bought themselves a TV, a flat screen TV. And they now have a TV. It was bought 2 years ago. And the excitement, first of all, that this is their TV, they say, tell us, this is our TV. Okay?
Yes.
Secondly, they're bouncing. Let me tell you, my son likes to kick the ball anywhere and everywhere, even in the house. His sisters are like, can you stop doing that? You're going to break our TV. So it's not me who says no bouncing the ball or kicking it everywhere, because it's there. So they understand the pain of denying themselves to be able to buy themselves that.
Delayed gratitude.
Delay gratification.
Yes. Gratification, sorry.
But also recognize that they can actually afford whatever it is that they want to if they just put themselves into it. So it's just an example. You asked me, how do parents...
No, that example is so beautiful. First of all, I say that because 2 days ago was my daughter's birthday.
Okay.
But that's a rabbit hole that you can lead me to, because already I'm like, comparison, depending on the kind of schools you take your kids to and the kind of birthdays the kids are going to, it's like, this one is spending $500,000 in their birthday, your children, how do you... Because that's one of the things that I realized my kids are going through. Then there is the whole element of, what do you mean you have a TV with a back end? Money personalities, is that hoarding? Is that, and these are conversations we'll have later on. I'm like, Rina, who has a TV with a diab internet that you can't
in 2021?
But I'm just like, but that's keeping up with it. Like, there's so many other questions I have, but thank you so much, at least for answering the element of, you see, I didn't think, you said to you, that's only like a normal example. I'm like, birthdays, that's where you're going to give the example. It's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Also, your partner, that's now a partnership agreement between your husband and your wife and finances. There's a long rabbit hole we're going to go to. Guys, I promise you, this is such a good city. We've just touched a bit. So now let's go back to her story. So you're in this educational system, you're at St. George's. Tell me now a little bit about home. Yeah. Home as now growing up. At this time, you where we've left it off, you've moved to Kileleshwa. Mm-hmm. Oh, this city is so good. I mean, so
in Kileleshwa, now what part do I tell you?
Start. We'll just.
I mean, Kileleshwa was good.
Tell me about the family. Tell me about your mom, your dad. I'm trying to see who they are. I know them, but I want to hear them from your perspective.
So my parents were very present. My father dropped me and my siblings to school every day of our lives, other than from when I was in boarding school. But even when I came back and went to IB, as an 18, 19-year-old, he dropped me in school. And so, we have a good relationship. All of us have a good relationship with our parents. My mom, when I came home, she was home. I guess those days, for most of us, our parents didn't kind of have the jobs that we have today, but and then...
Was she working or was she...
She was working.
She was working.
She was not a stay-at-home
So
mom.
both of your parents were working?
Both my parents were working. While my mom was working, they started a business. And my dad also, sort of helped out with that business. And then my mom quit her job and went into full-time business while I was still in primary school. So she went into the chicken business.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship, yeah. Okay. I think she was 38 when she decided she's retiring and going into business. Excuse me. So that was an interesting transition. Just watching my mom wake up and leave the house at 4 a.m. and go looking for chicken in very, far places. Okay, it seemed far those days. Dondori, places like in Kikuyu, get chicken and sell in hotels, managed to get really interesting contracts at that time, and really was able to, both my mom and dad did this. And he worked for the government, and he would also take time out, go with my mom, come back, go to work, So they really worked hard. And so I saw entrepreneurship from an early age. My grandfather was also an entrepreneur. He ran a shop. That's my dad's father. My dad's father, he was called Kamau Abisha. That means, Kamau of photographs. He started the first studio in Murang'a and opened another one in Nairobi, and was an entrepreneur. So anytime we were on holiday, my siblings and I went to work at his shop.
Nice.
And my grandmother also ran a shop. My mom's mom, she ran a shop. She used to be a teacher, and then when she retired as a teacher, she had a shop in Gara, so we'd also be there. My grandfather from my mom's side was a corporate person. He was the first Black bank manager of Barclays Bank.
Whoa.
Yeah, so interesting, actually, that he's in finance field, and that's where I ended up. But anyway, yeah, he was the first
where your
Black.
dad ended up. That's where the whole lineage.
I know, right? But that was my mom's dad.
Okay, your mom's dad. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
How was the area, Kileleshwa?
We're talking about Kileleshwa. Yeah, so Kileleshwa was interesting. So this was the area that we lived in, was government houses. Very nice estate, by the way. Our neighbors were interesting, of all different kinds of people. For some reason, not because of money, but we were the babbies of the estate. So the guys were rough and getting into drugs and and all these different youth would get into all kinds of interesting drama. But for us, we were the quiet, kind of, I think it's the upbringing, and our parents were very present.
Okay.
But it was fun. We played shake, we played kati, blada, all these games that children play outside were things that we did. So home was fun. Home was fun. I got in trouble a lot because you're supposed to be indoors, but you're out playing, instead of studying. So that estate life was quite fun.
I always like asking about the spiritual aspect of was that there?
Oh, no.
I love it.
Never.
So your folks were guys of the Junda?
Oh my goodness.
No, for real?
My folks were, see, I told you my mom was born when I was born when my mom was how old?
Oh, 20.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
So you can imagine yourself at 20.
Oh.
So my parents were guys of the Dunda. Life of the party. Like when I was in high school in IB, my friends would tell me, "Oh, I was with your dad in the club." I used to be so embarrassed. I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah. But my parents were the cool parents. Yes. My friends thought I had the best parents ever, and I really do.
So, Rina, I met you at church. I met you at Mavuno. That was my first
so
interaction.
church happened for me.
It wasn't...
No, I was not born.
Sundays, you weren't going to church?
No.
I mean, because your folks are probably Hangid.
They were Hangid. We never went to church when I was young. And then there's an auntie of mine who lived with us, and she was Buddhist. And so while she lived with us, some Sundays I'd end up going to her prayer meetings.
Buddhist,
yeah. And so, I mean, for me, it was easy. The most I got out of any Christian church, anything, was CRE at school. And when I spent the night at my grandmother's, because we'd go to All Saints, and I hated it. I hated Sunday school at All Saints Cathedral. Because there were many kids, I didn't have friends, because that's not where I went, right? And I'd feel like I'm in a jungle. So I hated it so much. But anyway.
Wait, you said, so your spiritual introduction was Buddhism. Is that even the word?
I wouldn't say it was Buddhism.
Yeah. I mean, but
it was a mix of all of them together.
Like me, I've never even till today in my 40 plus years, I've never experienced that. So what does that entail?
Well,
you're young.
Yeah, I was in primary school.
Yeah, so your aunt lived with you. Okay.
And it was normal for me. So initially it was, okay, Buddhism. Okay, what does that look like? Can I come and see you when you're praying? She'd be like, you can come in, but if you come in, you have to pray with me, or rather chant.
Yes.
It's called chanting. You have to chant with me. So she'd have this, I forget what it's called. You open it and it has all these Japanese characters, and she'd have a fruit or something in it as her sacrifice for the day. And she had a chart that had different little boxes that represented a path that you walk through. So there was a forest of destruction. I'm murdering this because I can't remember. I was in primary school. I'm now over 40, right? So it was forest of destruction. I don't know what, or valley of this, and height of. So as you chant, each little box represented 15 minutes of chanting. And so if you want to get out of a difficult place, you have to chant your way out. You get me? So there was a time she was going through a very difficult season of her life. And so she would chant even more, sometimes even take time off work to chant so that she's able to get out of this thing. And it seemed to work, because when she chanted, she got into this other phase. It was like, oh yeah, she's, gotten this and this has worked out. And so she'd tell me, you see? So I'd go in, we sit, and me and her daughter would be like, okay, I mean, this is what we do. So even her kids lived with us as well. And it was just interesting. I thought it felt a bit odd and weird. It just didn't sit right with me, but it was interesting. Yeah. But my mom started to get a bit concerned, and she'd be like, okay, I'm going to take you guys to church. So at some point, we started going to, I think it was Lavington United. Yeah. But it was, I don't know, Christianity. I remember once a pastor came home, and we'd have all these people, Christians, coming to the house to try and tell my parents about Jesus. And I remember once my mom asking, saved from what?
From who?
From what? For why? You people just jifanya. You are just not authentic people. And it used to really irritate her.
That's so interesting. So what's this thing doing for you? Like, I mean, it's so. I've never spoken to somebody who that was their introduction. I mean, I don't want to call it the introduction, because of course you have talked about the CRE that was still happening and all of these other things. But what was that like in contrast now to school? In school, were you telling guys, oh, by the way, I went to church?
No, because my life was normal. See, when you're growing up, whatever it is that you're experiencing is normal. Everyone else has weird lives. Yours is the one that's normal. So I remember one time, actually, this story, I think I may have told you before, but I'll share it. One time, I was in class 8. I was 13.